Fairy Tail's back, baby! Hell yeah! The anime adaptation of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest is finally here, so to commemorate the occasion, I'm making another crossover series between Fairy Tail and this time my other favorite card game, Digimon TCG. Like in the previous series, where I talked about which Yu-Gi-Oh decks I think the Fairy Tail characters would play, this time I'll try to pair them with their own Digimon TCG decks. And as always, I'll be basing my choices on the characters' powers and abilities. So let's start as always with the main character of the show, which in this case would be Natsu. He is a fire dragon slayer, which is a type of magic that lets him transform his body parts into that of a dragon, so he could use the elemental powers of a certain type of dragon, in his case fire, as the name would suggest. And he can also eat fire to replenish his magical energy. So for him I picked the Ancient Greymon deck, a big fire dragon Digimon that focuses on big swings at the opponent's security, having multiple ways to gain security attack plus effects, making it pretty easy to OTK, also a lot of inherited effects that boost the Digimon's DP so he can run over anything in the security, and also some deletion effects based on DP, either a specific amount or an amount equal to or lower than one of your Digimon's DP, which matches Natsu's destructive tendencies, which is why I think this deck would be a good fit for him. And let's get the other Dragon Slayers sorted as well, starting with Gajeel, who is an Iron Dragon Slayer, and his magic allows him to transform his body parts into iron, and stuff like iron clubs, swords, hammers and even shovels. He can also shoot iron projectiles and turn his entire skin into iron for more defense. And of course he can replenish his magical energy by eating iron. Also, since he learned his magic from a dragon called Metallicana, I decided to give him a deck focusing on Metallic Dramon, which usually works in conjunction with Volcanic Dramon, but I think a deck focused only on him can also work. This deck focuses mostly on de-digivolving your opponent's Digimon, which is one of the most powerful mechanics in the game. They also have powerful on-play effects, which can be cheated out when digivolving the Digimon by using Hina Kurihara, so the deck is pretty dependent on having that tamer on the field, multiple copies if possible. And they also have some security attack plus and deletion effects to match Gajeel's aggressive nature. Next we have Wendy, who is a Sky Dragon Slayer, and her magic allows her to heal other people, and she can provide some buffs to herself and others, like increasing speed or power. And since she's a Dragon Slayer, she also has some devastating offense as well. So considering all that, I decided to pair her up with a Magna Dramon deck. A deck with effects that can recover your security, mirroring her healing abilities, and effects that don't exactly buff up your own Digimon but debuff your opponent's Digimon, by giving them minus DP and minus security attacks, which when looking at it another way, you can interpret as buffing up your defenses, so it kinda works for the other part of her abilities as well. Then there's the final Dragon Slayer of the Fairy Tail Guild, but not the final one overall, Laxux, who is a Lightning Dragon Slayer, meaning he can create and manipulate lightning. He can also clad his body in lightning for more defense and offense, which also increases his movement speed, and his destructive power is off the charts. So for him I have a deck focused on a dragon Digimon most associated with lightning, which is Azulongmon. I mean, his signature attack is literally raining down lightning on his enemies. And this deck focuses mostly on the BT6 Azulongmon, so effects that strip your opponent's evolution sources, and gaining memory and security attack for every one of your opponent's Digimon with no evolution sources, and also some effects that stop your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution sources from attacking and increasing their Digivolution cost by 1, so it's capable of both control and aggression. Next is Sting, member of the Twin Dragons of the Sabertooth Guild, and a White Dragon Slayer, meaning he can emit and control white light, and his magic also possesses the Holy attribute, which is capable of purifying things. And being a type of dragon slaying magic, it's also pretty destructive. And to replenish his magic power, he can eat anything that emits light or is white in color, which is a pretty broad set of things. So for him I picked a deck focusing on the Holy Dragon Gongdramon, mostly the one from BT14, which creates 2 tokens, one that has Rush and one that has Blocker, and its X antibody evolution, which gains the effects of all Gongdramon under it, and can play a God Flame or an option card with 4 Great Dragons in its range from your hand for free, and it can also reduce the opponent's Digimon's DP. Next is his partner in crime Rogue, who is a Shadow Dragon Slayer, and his magic allows him to turn into a shadow, which cannot be touched by normal means. He can also fuse with his own shadow to move swiftly on the ground surface, and when in his shadow form all his senses are heightened. And he can also transform his shadow into various weapons. So for him I picked the Dark Dragon Nidhoggmon as his ace Digimon, which I think is fitting because its prior stage Icemon is a shadow Digimon. And this deck focuses on discarding cards and having as few cards in your hand as possible. And the new Nidhoggmon can even be played from the trash if you have a certain amount of cards in your hand, and even for a reduced cost. The only thing missing in the deck is a win condition, but since Rogue in the show was also mostly just there, I think that fits him. And finally for the Dragon Slayers we have Cobra, the Poison Dragon Slayer. And like the name suggests, he's capable of producing poison, he can eat poison, and his attacks can infect his opponents with a virus that drains their vitality. So I have for him a deck focusing on the strongest virus attribute dragon, Megidramon, which focuses on milling cards from both players' decks, and gains effects based on the number of cards in both players' trash, like deleting your opponent's Digimon up to a certain DP value, or gaining security attacks, or playing Gilmons or Takatos from your trash. And they also gain some effects when one of your Digimon is deleted on your turn, so it's a pretty aggressive deck. And it's also capable of draining your opponent's deck, just like Cobra's poison, so I think it fits him just right. Now let's focus on the other members of Team Natsu, starting with the other main character of the show, Lucy. She's a Celestial Spirit Mage, meaning she enters into a contract with various Celestial Spirits, and she can then summon them to fight by her side using her keys. And her most powerful spirits are the ones based on the constellations of the Zodiac. So for her I picked a deck focusing on the BT5 Lord Nightmon, which has a lot of effects. They can play level 3 Digimon, or Digimon with the warrior type from your hand for free, and then utilize those Digimon on play effects, which I think mirrors her style of summoning spirits and fighting by their side quite well. Next is Grey, the Ice Mage and Ice Devil Slayer Mage, and his magic allows him to create anything he imagines out of ice, everything from stairs, swords, bazookas, and so on. Later he acquired the Ice Devil Slayer magic, which makes him even more resilient to ice, and he can also replenish his magic by eating the specified element. So for him I picked the coldest Ice Snow Digimon in the game, Hex Blaumon, who got some new support announced recently, and it's not bad. This is another Digimon that focuses on stripping evolution sources, and when battling other Digimon, it compares the number of evolution sources and not DP. Also there's kind of a lot of dragons in this deck, but considering Grey was originally supposed to be an Ice Dragon Slayer, I think it's quite fitting. And the final member of Team Natsu is Erza, whose magic, the Night, allows her to switch between different weapons and armor she has stored in a different dimension. And since she embodies the Noble Knight archetype and is a fiery redhead, I decided to pair her up with a Gallantmon deck, the noblest Digimon in the Royal Knights, who is also strongly associated with the color red. And it's a pretty straightforward deck, full of DP based deletion effects, and under certain conditions is capable of trashing your opponent's security, fitting for one of the strongest mages in Fairy Tail. And with one S-class mage out of the way, we might as well cover the rest of them. Starting with the daddy of Fairy Tail Guild, Gildarts, who is probably the strongest mage in the guild, and he wields the magic called Crush, which gives him the ability to smash anything he comes into contact with to pieces, even other types of magic, and even people who, when hit by it, are turned into a bunch of mini versions of themselves. And because Gildarts is a bit of an airhead, he unintentionally uses it to make holes in walls and walk through them. But yeah, it's a powerful type of magic, and Gildarts is the strongest mage in the guild, so I've given him the Dark Masters deck, a deck full of high level Digimon that wants to get to the level 6 and 7s as soon as possible, who all have ways of getting rid of your opponent's cards. And with EX6 they got a new payoff for the deck in the form of Ultimate Chaosmon, which can easily get rid of your opponent's Digimon and clear their security in one attack. Then there is Mirajane, the guild's she-devil who possesses the magic known as Takeover Satan Soul. Takeover being a type of magic that allows the user to transform themselves, or parts of their body, into those of enemies they have defeated and taken over, and Mirajane takes over literal demons. and when she is transformed, her strength, speed and durability are all drastically increased, and she can even use curses, which normally only demons can use. The only thing not affected by the transformation are her devilishly good looks. So for her I picked a deck that focuses on one of the 7 great demon lords, Lilithmon, who is finally getting an X antibody form. The deck revolves around giving your opponent's Digimon the effect to delete themselves after they attack, and also on deleting your own Digimon to end their attacks. And when Lilithmon X antibody would be deleted, she can delete another Digimon instead, even your opponent's ones. And she can then play a level 4 or lower Digimon from your trash when your opponent's Digimon is deleted, which is a perfect mirror to Mirajane's Macro Curse which she gained in Tartaros, which can give anyone an order that they must follow. Speaking of Mirajane, let's also cover her siblings, starting with Elfman, who also uses a takeover magic called Beast Soul, which allows him to transform into various monsters, stuff like were-tigers, were-lions and lizard-men, and he also gains all of their abilities, like the were-tiger's speed and the lizard-man's defense. And since Elfman always goes on about being a man, and his original character design was based on a typical high school delinquent, I decided to give him a deck based on Bancho Digimon, that mostly centers on the Leomon and Mamemon level 4s and 5s, and on the green and black level 6 Bancho Digimon. Next is the youngest sibling, Lisana, who also uses a form of takeover magic called Animal Soul, which, as the name would imply, allows her to transform into various animals. She can either transform fully into an animal or use a partial transformation, only gaining the specific attributes of an animal that she wants. And it is also revealed in the 100-year quest manga that she can also transform into mythical animals such as the 9-tailed fox, so she gets the Nature Spirits deck, a deck full of animal type Digimon, consisting of 4 different colors, yellow, green, black and blue, each giving the abilities of their respective color to the deck. And their ace monster is the new triple colored level 7, Tlalokmon, which allows you to spam the field with Nature Spirit Digimon to put even more pressure on the opponent. And let's finish this video off with the Fairy Tail Guildmaster, Makarov, who is capable of using multiple types of magic, but his most prominent one is his giant magic, which allows him to grow his body to truly gigantic proportions, and the user also gains the physical strength of a giant, but he can also use it to enlarge only specific parts of his body. Now hang on, I'm talking about arms and legs, what else did you think I meant? So he could only get a Digimon of equally titanic proportions, I'm talking about Titanmon. A deck which focuses on discarding cards from your hand and drawing new cards to replace them, with inherited effects that trigger whenever you discard a card, which range from giving additional DP to the Digimon, gaining memory, or deleting your opponent's Digimon. Also, one of the Titanmons can boost his own DP and gain security attack +1, and play one of your level 4 or lower Digimon from the trash, and the other can suspend your opponent's Digimon and gains piercing. So it's a Digimon that gets big and hits hard just like Makarov can. And that should do it for this video. But I have some more ideas of possible pairings, so I'll be sure to make another one. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this hypothetical crossover, let me know if you can think of some better pairings, and I'll see you next time. Bye!